Welcome back to the Fast Start training. This is three-way call. At this point in the training, you've already learned how to effectively execute a one-on-one, which is inviting your prospect to the perfect presentation. The next step was to follow up with your prospect to schedule a three-way call or a two-on-one meeting with your team leader. In this training, we're going to explain in detail the importance of the three-way call and how to execute one properly. This will help you to grow your business at a very fast pace. Three-way calls are one of the most effective, convenient, and time-efficient fundamentals for growing your business. By the end of this training, you should know what a three-way call is, why it is important, and how it should be done effectively. So first, what is a three-way call? A three-way call is a conference call between you, your prospect, and your team leader. Remember, at this point, you've invited your prospect to watch the online presentation about Vasayo, and when you followed up with them, they agreed to speak with a team leader to answer any questions or concerns they have. Second, why is a three-way call important? Because most of the time, when you follow up with your prospect after they've watched the online presentation, they have several questions or concerns, and this can be a little overwhelming to a new brand partner. Your team leader typically has a greater income story, experience, and skills, and can professionally speak with your prospects. Working with your team leader will show you how to properly build your own business independently over time. This is called on-the-job training. You get to learn and earn at the same time. Third, how do you effectively execute a three-way call? In our previous Fast Start training about how to follow up with your prospect, we taught you how to set up this three-way call. Now that you, your prospect, and your team leader are all on the phone together, what do? Begin the conversation by briefly introducing your team leader to your prospect. After you do that, you'll turn the call over to the team leader to do his thing. You can simply say, "Hello everyone, I have my friend Jill on the call, and Jill, this is my friend and team leader John, who can help answer any questions that you may have, and we'll see if Vasayo is the right fit for you. John, this is Jill. In fact, John, do you mind sharing with Jill your story about Vasayo, and I'll sit back here and let you two talk." At this point, you as the brand partner are done, and just put yourself on mute right away. This is the time for you to listen and take notes on the form provided with this video. You may want to jump in and add something you feel is important, but doing so will actually take away from your team leader's credibility and the power of the call. It is vital that you trust your team leader to completely lead the conversation. Take this time to learn from your team leader's experience. Just listen. As you listen to multiple three-way calls, you'll quickly learn that turning the conversation over to your team leader will put less pressure on your prospect. Two brand partners talking at the same time can seem overwhelming, so just mute your phone and let your team leader lead. You will also begin to notice that your team leader follows a clear process during every call. It's a proven plan of questions and answers to move your prospect in the right direction. You will learn this process too. The best way to learn and follow along with your team leader's phone call is to follow along with the PDF provided with this video. Let me walk you through that right now. This is the three-way phone call document. This is the outline for brand partners who will put themselves on mute so their team leader can lead. So you will use this outline to follow along with your team leader as they lead the three-way call with your prospect. You should use the time during a call to take notes on this document and learn as you listen to your team leader tell their own story, and they will answer your prospect's questions. Your team leader will follow the three parts to a three-way call. These are: first, to connect with your prospect; second, tell their story to your prospect; and third, ask a series of questions to your prospect that will lead them in the right direction. Your team leader will use the same outline every time. As you continue listening to several three-way calls, you will learn this standard outline
and eventually become comfortable to begin three-way calls with your own team. You will listen to your team leader connect with your prospect, share their story with your prospect, and ask your prospect a few questions to help your prospect make an informed decision. So first, connect. Your team leader will first introduce themselves to your prospect, saying something like, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. How do you and brand partner," so if your name's Jill, "how do you and Jill know each other?" And second, your team leader will try to connect with your prospect, probably by using the form method to learn more about your prospect. They'll ask questions like, "So tell me a little more about yourself. Are you married?" They'll ask family-related questions, occupation-related questions, recreation-related questions, and then they'll move into the message with the question, "What do you know about Vasayo at this point?" Your team leader will then begin to tell their story. They'll transition to their story with something like, "So how about this? If it's okay with you, I'd like to take just a few minutes to share with you how Vasayo has changed my health and changed my life financially. Most importantly, I'd like to hear from you to see if you have any questions and any interest in getting involved with our Vasayo team. How does that sound? Okay, great." Your team leader will then share their story with your prospect. Your team leader has packaged their story and practiced it over and over. It will follow an outline like this: where they were, what they saw with Vasayo, what happened with Vasayo or what they did, and where they are going. In our Fast Start training, you've already learned how to package your story, so this should be familiar to you. Okay, the last step is asking a series of questions to get your prospect in the right direction. Your team leader will determine their interest level by saying, "So let me ask you, what interested you most about what you just heard? The products, the business, or possibly both?" Your team leader will wait for a response and then ask, "That's great. Let me ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being 0 interest and 10 being you're ready to get started right now, where are you?" And regardless of what number they give, your team leader will say something like, "5 is a good start. What questions can I answer for you to help you feel more confident, to help you move closer to that 10? Your team leader will then answer their questions if they have any immediate ones. And next, your team leader will probably move to the 4-question close if your prospect is a 5 or higher and seems interested. Your team leader will give these 4 questions, starting with, "Based on everything that you've just learned, if you were to get started on a part-time basis, how much would you need to earn per month to make this business worth your time?" Your prospect will probably give a certain amount. And your team leader will say, "About how many hours could you commit each week to developing that kind of income?" Your prospect will probably give an amount of hours they could commit. Your team leader will ask, "About how many months would you be willing to work those hours per week in order to be able to develop your," whatever their monthly income is, "monthly residual income?" And your team leader will go back and forth with your prospect, developing something that's realistic and reasonable. If what they've discussed is reasonable, your team leader will move on to the final question. If it's not reasonable, your team leader will help them understand that their suggested hours and income is unrealistic, and they'll help them adjust the hours, income, or months to something achievable. Then they'll move on to the final question. "If I could show you how to get this much income working this many hours per week over the course of this many months, would you be ready to get started?" After this 4-question close, there are 3 main possibilities. The first possibility is that your team leader will set up a call with your prospect's guest. If your prospect has interest, your team leader may start this by saying something like, "Who is the first person that you would share Vasayo with? I'd be happy to do a call like this with your contacts." Your team leader may even suggest that you start one right away, or hang up the call, set up a time, and do one in about 20 minutes. Here's the second possibility: to begin the Fast Start training. If your prospect has decided to get started, your team leader will introduce them to the Fast Start training on vsuccessteam.com. Your team leader may also assist them through the process of purchasing product and enrolling right away over the phone. Your team leader will probably ask something like, Are you in front of a computer? If your prospect really is interested, they'll probably help move things along and be willing to do that. Here's the third possibility, just setting up another exposure. If your prospect is not ready to get started, but is willing to learn more, your team leader will help set up the next exposure, meaning the next educational tool or phone call or video for your prospect. And don't be discouraged if your prospect doesn't want to enroll right after a call. It can take several exposures before a prospect is willing to commit to beginning a new business, so be patient. So there's a brief introduction to our three-way call form.
So in summary, let's review the major benefits of a three-way call. They're fast and convenient for everyone. You don't lose any travel time, and there's less difficulty matching everyone's schedules. Three-way calls take pressure off of you as the brand partner, and they take pressure off of your prospect. It's on-the-job training, and you'll learn and earn at the same time. There's overall less pressure and better results from a three-way call, and they're actually really fun. Take advantage of your team leader's expertise and follow our proven plan of action for a successful three-way call.